Hey guys, my name's Sam and welcome to PrepMedic. This is a very interesting video because, as some of you know, I released a video yesterday covering the lawsuit against North American Rescue being brought against them by some of their competitors, alleging that the CAT Tourniquet and other berry compliant supplies were actually being manufactured overseas in China and shipped to the United States, repackaged, and then sold to the DoD, which of course would be a massive ethical and legal violation if true. Now, I got some things wrong here, and I want to, clear the air. First and foremost, own up to that. One thing I was not aware of when I got those sources, I went through the court transcripts, they were not updated all the way. And I didn't realize that case had been actually dismissed on November 1st, 2024 with prejudice, which means that the case cannot be retried in civil court. For that, I sincerely apologize. It's never my intention to bring false information. There's so much false information on the web right now. I definitely don't want to contribute to that, and I definitely have a responsibility to make sure the information I'm giving you is up to date. So for that, I'm sorry. Hard stop. There's nothing really more to say on that point. But I do want to talk about the reasons why I took that video down and some of the conclusions I've come to after talking to a lot of the different players in this game. I did talk to North American Rescue, and I did talk to other sources that know things that North American Rescue can't necessarily disclose. And my personal opinion here is that North American Rescue is not in the wrong. Like I said in the original video, this case was being brought against North American Rescue by their competitors. Obviously, that's a conflict of interest. Now, it's not an illegal conflict of interest. They can still, blow the whistle and bring this to the court's attention and sue civilly in this, defense of the king lawsuit or whistleblower lawsuit, whatever you want to call it. But there is a conflict of interest, and first and foremost, that should raise some red flags, as it did to me in that video. So the next part of it is that I talked to North American Rescue. Now, some of you are gonna sit here, especially the next thing I'm gonna say, you're gonna be like, oh man, they got to you. They're paying you off. They're threatening you with legal action. And man, I wish they were paying me off. They are not. I'm not making any money from this. I didn't make any money from the video yesterday, probably like, $10, $20 from the views. But they didn't do that. They have not threatened me legally at all. They just sent me a phone number and were like, hey, do you want to talk about this? We can fill you in a little bit more. There's some info you don't know, which I'm all for. So I chatted with them, on the phone, and they brought up some good points, but there is a frustration I have with it, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So the first point they wanted to make was the same thing I pointed out in the video, is that this case was being brought against them by their competitors. So obviously that's red flag. The second thing is that a little while ago, they actually got a court injunction with the Trade Commission to allow Border Patrol to seize shipments of counterfeit cats from China. If they were in fact manufacturing cats in China, importing them here, they've effectively destroyed their own supply line. So obviously that makes no logical sense if they actually went that route. The frustration, where the conversation went from there, is that there's a gag order around the case. So it was dismissed with prejudice, and it's presumably going to be settled outside of court, but they can't talk about it. They can't talk about why. There's a gag order on. I don't know who brought that gag order. And while it seems nefarious, I really don't think it is. It's simply to protect their IP. With this court case, to prove that they were manufacturing everything in the United States, they're going to have to release some of the details about the manufacturing process, things that could give their competitors an advantage and allow them to copy some of the techniques they're using that are proprietary to Composite Resources, CAT, the people that are actually manufacturing this tourniquet. So I get it. But it is frustrating to have somebody say, hey, you don't have all the information, but also I can't give you all the information because there's a gag order. Now, what really made me believe, flat out that North American Rescue is not involved in anything nefarious when it comes to the CAT tourniquet and importing it is I talked to somebody not affiliated with North American Rescue at all, somebody that's been involved with this kind of whistleblower lawsuit as it relates to the government and the Department of Defense. And they were essentially saying that in this case, the government has the ability to step in and join the plaintiffs and join them and prosecute the case with them because the lawsuit is essentially a defense of the king lawsuit. They would have done that in this case. Now, I thought they had not weighed in yet because I thought the case was still ongoing. I didn't believe it was closed, but it was closed. The DOD opted not to go with the plaintiff. And my source that was kind of involved externally, or not involved with this, but was involved in another case, basically said that they would have verified that this cat was not being manufactured in China, and they would have done an audit. I don't have confirmation on that, but I believe that would have happened. And the DOD is still purchasing cat tourniquets from North American Rescue. That is still going on. They have not stopped shipping them or anything like that. So right there, for me, that kind of exonerates them. It might not you, I get it. Like, we all have, opinions and preconceived notions, and some people believe North American Rescue is truly evil, and you're gonna believe that no matter what I say in this video, and vice versa. Some people are gonna be diehard no matter what they do, and go from there. Future Sam here. I was editing this video and I got a text from the employee I was talking to at North American Rescue. Their head shed offered to bring me out to their manufacturing plant and kind of see how things are done. So kind of another point towards they're not doing anything nefarious, and this was a frivolous lawsuit. So do with that what you will. Back to the video. What I can tell you is I don't have any brand loyalty. I'm not getting paid by not a single cat tourniquet manufacturer. The most I can say is I have financial disclosures for people that make nylon bags, people that make IFACs but not any of the medical equipment. I have no skin in this game whatsoever. And I just want to make sure that people are held accountable and people are getting really good medical devices. Which brings me to the next part of this video. And I want to address some of the comments that were making kind of false equivalencies when I did post the China video. And what people were saying was, well, you posted about how you hate Rhino Rescue because they're made in China 2 weeks ago, and now we think cats are made in China, so Rhino Rescues are okay. That logic doesn't make any sense. So let's pretend, I don't believe this, but let's pretend for a second that North American Rescue products were actually being manufactured in China, and we're comparing them to North American Rescue products. My problem has never been that a product is manufactured in China. My problem is that Rhino Rescue comes into this space with these medical devices that are meant to save lives in really tough conditions, and they have no data to support their product. They've submitted them for no laboratory testing. They have nothing behind them. Whereas the cats coming in, regardless of where they're manufactured, with a huge body of evidence behind them. They are the most studied tourniquet in the world. So regardless of where they're manufactured, they still have the data to say the product works. And obviously, I like US-made products, especially in this space. I trust them more, but I'm not against Chinese products. I'm filming this on 2 very expensive, very nice Chinese-made cameras that have excellent QC. So saying that just because they're manufactured in the same country, they must have the same quality doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Now, the mistake I made in the Rhino Rescue video is that I posted the test results that I did. And like I said in that video, I did not do it scientifically. I did not go about that all right, now I'm going to turn it like this much and this pressure and make sure the bands tighten this much and I'm only going to tighten it till occlusion. I didn't do that. I put them on a weight and I tightened them until they failed. And my mistake was doing that because my big issue with Rhino Rescue is not anecdotal evidence, which my test was anecdotal no matter what. My issue with them is lack of QC and lack of literature supporting their use. I had spent the entire week before that video getting people's anecdotal reports of the Rhino Rescue tourniquet because there was nothing published online, talking with people in Ukraine. And some people had good things to say, but a lot of people had bad things to say. Then I brought them in on my desk and I tested them and I had a bunch of different failures. Now they both failed. The cat tourniquet failed and the Rhino Rescue failed. And to think that the cat tourniquet is incapable of failing is naive. Manufacturing can cause anything to fail, but we know the rate of failure. We know why they fail. And we know it's a very, very small number. Whereas the Rhino Rescue actually failed before the cat tourniquet. I got 2 more turns on the cat tourniquet, then the Rhino Rescue tourniquet. And I had other failures before I even got to that point with the Velcro ripping off of the bracket and then the bracket collapsing. But again, my anecdotal test was not the reason for that video. I just shouldn't have included it because I think it kind of muddied the waters there. So people obviously have strong opinions on this, and that's totally fine. I look forward to hearing them in the comments down below, and I will see you next week.